Hi again everyone. So today we're continuing our mini-series where we're going back through our arrangements of the last year and just kind of picking them apart and looking how they kind of came together. So yeah, today we're going to be looking at our latest release track, which is Someone You Loved by Lewis Capaldi. I mean, it's a very different take. If you saw our Sam Smith video from a few years back, we did Too Good at Goodbyes in kind of an electronic style, and this is kind of a sequel to that. So it's a Lewis Capaldi song, a slow track, but kind of done in a electronic dance music style. So really jazzed up and completely spun on its head. But yeah, I think it's I really like it. It's a really cool vibe. So let's dive in. So yeah, I guess with this one, I guess the most interesting thing about it is that it's completely different from the track. So before I start, I'll just say I will put the link of both the Lewis Capaldi original and our version in the comments above, in the description above. So please do check those out first, because then you can really get a feel for the song before we dive into it. But yeah, after you've listened to Lewis's and then ours, you can really see that it's a very different style, completely different. So yeah, I thought it would just be good first to talk about kind of how that came about. It was kind of in a very similar way to the Sam Smith, really. It's basically when we come to arrange these things, how it's often kind of a case of when you're, well, I really enjoy these kind of remix vibes, and if you just, I'd kind of, start with the tune, get the tune in, either we'll sing it into some recording software, so we've got it recorded, or play it on the piano out, and kind of basically it's about using the tune and then hearing the tune in a different context, if that makes sense. So you're not hearing it as the Lewis Capaldi song, you're hearing it as, okay, Lewis Capaldi's written this tune, and now I'm re-instrumentating, I don't know if that's the word, I'm re-putting together the backing, basically. So often that starts with, the tune by itself, and then usually it'll be the bass that sits in first, because you want to kind of, the bass is important because it sets up the chord on top. So whatever bass note you play, it then gives you, whichever bass note you choose, it gives you a series of notes that you put on top to make the chord. And if you can get a bass line that works with the tune, that then informs what all the other parts should be singing, because it gives you the chord structure, and it gives you the way the music's going to sound in that sense. So we'd start with the bass. So basically we just took the Lewis Capaldi tune, rewrote a new bass line effectively, and then from there you then add in the higher parts and the other backing parts and the beats. But yeah, you'll see a lot of this is kind of a lot of counter rhythms and stuff. When you've got this electronic music, you want a lot of kind of counter rhythms to keep the interest. So the bass will be doing a different rhythm to the backing, which will be doing a different rhythm to Mide, just to kind of really make it feel busy and exciting like an electronic trap should. So let's dive in. We'll do the same again. We'll start at the start and kind of go through, and I'll kind of explain bit by bit what's going on. So here we go. Again, this is the dry audio, so it hasn't been mixed, so you'll hear it very different to the track. It won't have all the reverbs and effects on, so you'll actually hear what it sounds like when we sang it. So here we go. I'm going under, and this time I feel there's no one to save me. Yeah, so this verse, one of the key things to electronic music, and in a lot of cases, especially this kind of driving stuff, is that four to the floor kick, is what they call it, where the kick is hitting every beat. And you can hear that in Mide's drums. Let me just play that. So it's really got that pulse feel. And then, like I said before, we add in Josh. He's kind of on and off the beat with Mide, so you get that rhythmic variation. Let's start again. And then Heinzie and me. Oh, wrong button. Heinzie and me. Let me add it in. So we're now on the off beats, and we're kind of counter-rhythming with Josh and Mide, so you get quite a thick, play it one more time, you get quite a nice thick feel where lots of things are going on, and then Bellum on top. Nothing really got a way of driving me crazy. I need somebody to... So yeah, so there, it's it's just keeping that complexity in the rhythms so that it just feels really interesting and of the electronic genre. So yeah, you'll notice here, me and Heinzie, we do the filtering I spoke about before, where we kind of start and open up, and you can kind of hear, it's just at the beginning, and then we get to that, you can hear the difference. Again, that's a really good effect using electronic music, because it really feels like an electronic filter. It feels like kind of next door sound to then in your face, and that's really of the genre. So yeah, so then what we do now is we go into this little, well, I think Joe Hines called it, well, dubbed it the dirty loop section. It's with Josh kind of going to, you know, to a cool bass line, just Josh and me.
Somebody to know, somebody to have, somebody to hold.
And as great as Josh's bass line is there, I actually think the bit that makes the section there is the introduction of the offbeat hi-hat for Me-Day, because it really changes the vibe and really gives that kind of like disco-esque feel, which kind of changes the vibe. So you'll hear it here if I take it up. So there's nothing on the offbeats. Well, no hi-hat. So there, it's actually, in my opinion, it's the beats that's doing most of the work there of changing the vibe. And yeah, that's just something that I guess a lot of people wouldn't necessarily notice, but you'd really feel it. And that's the big vibe changer there. So I think that's the key element in that section.
Somebody to have, somebody to hold.
And then here, let's play me and Heinzie. You can hear the unfilter again. And that's really key for any build. Again, in electronic music, that unfiltering really feels like it's building up towards the drop. So.
I guess I kinda like the way you numbed all the pain.
Next to the drop. So here, I mean, at the moment it sounds a little bit sparse because really it needs all that kind of reverb and delay, which is kind of like an echo on all the voices to kind of really make it sparkle here. So I mean, in many ways, this piece is very much tailored for a recording because you want that mix, like you would with electronic music. It really needs to be processed on the computer. So you want that mix for all the effects to get the vibe. But what's going on here, like we had in Sigur Rós, we have Me-Day doing a whoosh. Again, let me find it. Just into it. Here we go. You can hear it.
I kinda like the way you numbed all the pain.
So you can hear that nice big whoosh for Me-Day. Again, that's used in the same way as it was in Sigur Rós, really. So what you do is you record two of them, put them left and right, and then because they're really kind of high frequencies, when you then play them left and right, they feel really wide. So it does a job of making the verse, because the verse hasn't got it as much, it makes the verse feel quite narrow. And then when you get to the drop, it really sparkles to the side and it really widens it, which makes that drop feel like it hits a lot harder. Let me just turn it back up. So yeah, and then the other things about the drop, really, so there's a few things with the drop. Drop's quite interesting. So Josh now has changed from, he was dum 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 doing his dums as he would, and that again, we use the dum for rhythmic accuracy, so it really keeps the rhythms tight because we're then bouncing on the offbeat, so it needs to be really tight. But when it gets to the drop, he then goes to lip bass, which is basically where he just looking for my mic. So we actually record it on one of these, just an SM58, because it's a bit too much for a lot of condenser microphones. But basically what he's doing is he's holding it right up against his mouth like this, cupping the mic like this, and then basically he's blowing raspberries into the mic. So he's going, and then doing it like this, it kind of makes this bassy tone when you kind of EQ it correctly. And then by tightening and loosening his lips, it changes the tone. So it will go, sorry, changes the pitch. So it'll be, you can hear how that's going higher and lower. And then when you mix that correctly and take out some of the highs and put a lot more of the bass in, it ends up sounding like this. So this has got no other effects on it. This is just the microphone signal. But with the bass brought out, you can hear it's much more bassy sound. And that's kind of what we use really, because well, it's a lot lower, so it gives you that really subby feel because it's a lot lower than he can sing vocally. It's kind of, you know, another octave or what down. But also it kind of doesn't sound as human, like it doesn't sound like a human voice. It's very electronic, synthy sounding anyway, which is perfect for this kind of music. So the other element we've got, so you've got Me Day, very simple beats. Very simple, but it's all about those kicks and snares hitting really hard. They're really carrying the drop, and that's what's giving you the impact and the oomph. And you've got to feel that. That's really what's kind of driving and making it feel really heavy, which is great. And then me and Heinzie, we are doing a kind of a DV, which you can hear here. So I guess we are like the lead synths in a sense. It's a bit different to how we did Sam Smith, where that had like a lead line. This is more like the lead synth pad in the background. But yeah, we played with different things for this. So I mean, the DV is a great sound. That kind of, because you basically, how we do it is we put our teeth together, kind of pucker your lips a bit, and then you say a DV basically, and it's great because you can hear it, and if you close your lips a bit, you basically get the vibration of your teeth, kind of the sound going through your teeth, and also kind of I know it sounds horrible, but kind of the spit on your lips is giving it that kind of like gravelly, like, yeah, almost like an old record player, the kind of, when you can hear the scratchiness, it gives that scratchiness, which is adding extra treble so it really sticks out, but also it's just making it feel a bit less human, but also just adding that kind of texture to the sound, so it's not just a dry human voice. It's like got an extra element to it, which makes it feel really kind of, you know, it adds a bit of sparkle to the sound, and also just makes it feel a little less human, which is great for this kind of music, because really we're trying to imitate synths here. So yes, and we went with kind of a dv, but we tried other things, tried like a kind of vibe. That's you know, a different synth sound you could go for, but in this case, just that added rasp from the dvs just gave it a bit more bite, and it, you know, the kind of other synth I just did was a little bit flatter, so we went with the dvs. But and actually in the Sam Smith video, where we kind of used it for a different purpose, rather than being a lead pad, it was like a kind of pad for underneath the lead. We still went with the dvs just because it gave it that extra element with the rasp. So yeah, so let's move on. So we've got Miday's awesome beat fill, but that's just amazing. You just have to listen to that in the track because it's awesome. But yeah, I don't know how he does it. But anyway, we're on to verse 2. Just turn Miday down. So this is very, very similar to verse 1, really, just to get that familiarity back. So the chords are the same, the notes are very similar, but basically we've just changed Josh. So Josh has gone from being, well, changed Josh and me and Heinzie basically, but it's very similar. So that was Josh's rhythm in verse 1. Now he just had a bit of a slide. And then me and Heinzie have gone from just the offbeats to slightly different rhythm, and then a sound change there. But again, this is more just for, more than kind of keeping it similar to get that feel of returning to the verse, and also adding to that shape of the drop being big and the verses being lower. But then yeah, just to give that variation, we've just changed up the rhythms and the voice sound slightly. But that's all that's really going on in verse 2. Then again, using the whoosh for the added electronic effect and the nice wide image. So yeah, that section really, we had me and Heinzie initially in the initial idea, it was just kind of ooze the whole way through, but then we thought, you know, let's just add an extra element. So we just added those kind of runs where Heinzie moves and then I move. Just makes it a bit more interesting, but you'll hear it. And again, the whole thing's swelling up to this drop, so it's getting louder and it's opening out with the filter. And then you hear Miday doing the synths up to the drop as another add-in. And then that is the drop, but I haven't got on here. Must have lost that bit of the file. But yeah, but it hits another drop, and then here actually it's pretty cool. So in the actual track, there's a kind of a now a lead synth line, and basically that was something that actually Eric added in after we'd sent it to him to mix, because he just felt like it wanted an extra element. And what he's done, you'll have to listen to the track for it because I unfortunately don't have it here, but yeah, basically he's taken as far as I'm aware, it's just the end of Bellum's, the someone you loved, just the end of you loved, and then basically what he's done is just edited that and shifted it around and made it really high and made this riff out of it. So that is what that riff is. It's just a bit of Bellum's voice that then's been digitally edited to make sound really cool. So that's where that comes from.
One you love.
And then we get to the end. And again, the whoosh to kind of give it a nice stereo image and also to help it bring it down. Yeah, and then here we're just kind of doing, just to get the chords nice, it was kind of like a nice soft ending, like a big kind of sigh of relief after the drop is kind of what we were going for. So we've just gone back to the do's. Josh is doing at the start, me and Heinzie are doing. It's nice, close, quite just, you know, easy on the ear chords, just to like settle it back down again. But yeah, also, again, it's nice to have those held notes because it really settles the chord, gives you nice lush sounds, and that's a nice contrast to the drop, which is a bit more spread, a bit more things going on everywhere, and a wider sound, and then you kind of settle into this closer, more rich sound at the end, which is really nice. But yeah, just one last thing. I just want to show you what Josh has done here, because this was something that we recorded and really liked, but it's quite interesting what he's doing. So so you'll hear here, I'll just play Josh by himself, listen to what he does. So you can hear it there. I'll do it one more time. So there, he's actually basically humming the first half, just because we felt that the hum, the and the resonance from the hum gave it a nice richer tone and was a bit more bassy and really kind of tied everything together really nicely. But then at the end, just for that last note, he turns to a do to match me and Heinzie. And you wouldn't notice it unless if I told you, because it's so subtle. But I think, you know, it really just ties it up at the end, that we're all in unison on the same sound. It really ties it up, makes the end note really, really nice and ring really nicely. But then by using the hum before, you're getting a bit of extra richness in the tone of that section. So yeah, that's just kind of an interesting technique that we haven't really, as far as I'm aware, haven't really used before, but came up with in the studio this time just because, yeah, it just felt really good and sounded really good. So that's something to try out. But yeah, that is our rendition of Someone You Love by Lewis Capaldi, and I really hope you enjoyed it, because it was a good fun one and something completely different. But yeah, and I hope you are enjoying this series, and yeah, I'm sure I'll see you again for another one, so have a good one.
'Cause I don't care when I'm with my baby, yeah. All the bad things disappear, and you're making me feel like maybe I am somebody.